Welcome back, you guys. Today we are going to be installing vinyl arch bead, and I think this is about my 10th time trying to do this intro because I just installed one on the other side and I think the glue's getting to my head. But let's see if we can actually make a useful video about how to install this stuff. The first thing you want to make sure of is that your board isn't overhanging the drywall. As you can see, the 1/4-inch board is cut very flush. In fact, I rasped it for a while to get it really nice and flush. So make sure of that, because if it's sticking out, you're going to make your install way harder than it has to be. So to get the length of your bead, well, you just want to make sure that it goes past where it becomes vertical. So I have it right about here. I've drawn a little line on the drywall, and then I cut this to a rough length so that it's just a little bit longer than what I have there. Next, spray adhesive on the bead. So I'm using this regular Trimtex spray adhesive. It does have some benefits to the way it sprays, so I would recommend getting this stuff. I like to spray the bead first because the glue dries slower on the bead because it's plastic and doesn't absorb. Especially when you put that much on. You can twist the nozzle on your can to make it easier to spray the bead on the floor, which is what I should have done in the first place. So you want to make sure you've got glue right out to the edges and that it's fully covered. So twist your nozzle horizontal, and then you should be able to spray both sides of the corner at the same time. Oops, it's a little too much there. So if you get too much on, it just means you're going to be waiting a little bit longer for it to dry. And with a curved bead like this, I err on the side of a bit more and just letting it dry longer. So if there's any really big globs, just give them a wipe because those are going to make the bead not stick as quickly and easily. Those spots will tend to lift. The stuff dries pretty quick though. Like it's already dry on here. And you just want to wait until it's the same on the bead. It should, start to lose its sheen and become tacky as opposed to kind of gooey. So we're good here. It's time to do it. I wish I could get a better angle of this for you guys, but I'm filming solo today. So I've got my line here and I'm going to be focusing not on the slotted part, but I'm focusing on getting this part stuck really well. And I'm holding it out. So I go to my line, because there's not a lot of adjustment time with this stuff. Like once it's on, it's pretty on. Especially on a tight radius like this. Okay. And again, really focus on pushing this under one on. Oh man, I didn't get it pushed snug enough there. That could be a problem. It just would have been a really big fill. And don't expect this to look 1,000,000%. Like as you run your hand across it, you will be able to feel little imperfections where all of these slots are, because that's just how the plastic bends, especially on a tight radius. So take your time, and anywhere that's not stuck, just keep kind of pushing it down until it looks like it's going to actually stay. And you're even going to want to come back to it. So it does say to use staples when installing this. I don't usually use staples unless I have somewhere that isn't staying stuck. So that's when I start to use them, but for the most part it's stuck. I mean, like staples, like what are you gonna do? Staple every single one of these? That would be ridiculous. So you wanna look for stuff like this as it's drying and just push it down. Okay, that's pretty good. Now it's time to do the legs. So you are going to need to use vinyl for the legs because this arch bead has a very round nosing, and if you try and use a metal or a paper-faced bead, it's not gonna line up right. You need something with the same nosing profile, so you gotta go vinyl on these. So I'm not gonna film the install of these because it's just the same thing, but not as hard. All you need to do is when you're installing it, Start at the top and line up your nosings as absolutely best you can first, and then work your way down. I think part of the reason my glue was such a mess was because I was filming. Things never go right on camera, so I'm gonna do these off camera. Okay, we got those in, and I did end up using the odd staple, and that was just to hold the nosings in their position and make sure they were properly lined up. Same with on this one, just a couple to hold it. So one of the reasons I hate the staples is because when you start coating this, you'll notice that the staples will often poke up a little bit past your coat of mud. So they take a lot more mud to bury. So that's one of the reasons why I don't use them. I only use them if necessary. Anyways, next we better get to coating this. For my first coat, I'm going to be using taping mud with barely any water, so it's nice and thick. I have also gone to the lengths of putting mesh tape over top of all of this. I just figure if any of it decides to lift down the road, it at least has the mesh tape helping stop it lift up. So, should be nice and sturdy, and I think it'll help those joints there. So I anticipate this taking 3 coats. You really want to make sure that you kind of mash the mud in there so it gets a chance to get into those holes and fill up any voids. Yeah, from my experience, vinyl does take 3 coats, but you just do your best. Get it nice and full. Let it shrink and do it again. See, like it takes a lot of mud. Even from those first passes, there wasn't enough. So this is where the coating starts to get a little bit interesting because this method doesn't really work once you get here. So, I mean, it's nothing crazy. You just got to go a little slower. You want to try not to get too much of it on the other side. But it is just corner bead. You know, there's nothing too fancy about it. Okay, so I'm just sort of lightly smoothing it. I'm not taking it all off yet. Now with this pass I might. Yeah, it's looking not bad. And we'll just keep working our way down. So as for the mesh tape, yeah, I mean, if you don't want to do it or you don't think it's necessary, don't bother. Like, it doesn't call for it in the installation instructions. One of the things it does call for actually is it calls for staples. There's just a bit of mesh tape. I'm just slicing it a bit because it was sticking out. So it does call for staples. I probably already talked about that, but yeah, I only use staples to hold it in place in tricky spots. I don't know why I'm even saying that. Guaranteed I've said it already. I should just be being quiet and letting you guys get a bit of mud ASMR. Sorry. That's pretty satisfying. So it's not going to hurt to spend a little bit of time forcing the mud this way on this bead. I think it just helps it get that mud right in there. It's going to shrink a bit less and just be stronger in general. And some of you might be wondering if hot mud, quick set, setting type mud is going to be a good option for this bead. You can. It wouldn't be my choice. I would definitely say that you should add glue if you're going to use hot mud. Even Trimtex says that you should add glue. when using hot mud. The thing about Kwikset hot mud, setting type mud, is it's more hard and brittle. Even though it's stronger, it doesn't have the same flex as regular muds, as air drying muds. So when you use air drying muds, what am I trying to say here? Kwikset doesn't have as good a bond, and it doesn't have the same flexibility as air drying muds. So you can use them on plastic beads, but you do so at the risk of adhesion, and I actually think it's going to crack more. So I would use, again, taping mud or all-purpose for this. That's going to stick the best, and I think it's also just slightly more pliable than Kwikset, which is more in nature with the plastic Trimtex. So that's my thoughts. So here it is, starting to take shape. It's looking a little better than I thought. I wasn't sure exactly how round that arch was going to be after putting the bead on, but I think it's pretty darn close. And this thing used up so much mud. Look how much less mud there is. It's got to be 6 inches less mud. This thing was not a light fill. Well, you guys, it's done. Finished sanded, looking really smooth. It did take 3 coats. It was almost good after 2 coats, but there was still just some little imperfections, and I knew that it was going to look way better if I just did that 3rd and really flattened it out. Let's take an up close look and see how it looks. Okay, so as you can see, nice and full. The bead's showing the tiniest bit, and the edge has been sanded off, as you can see. I should say the crusties on the edge. The radius is looking pretty good at this point. Now that it's all smooth, I can't see too many deviations. Yeah, I'm happy with it. And here's the other side that I never really showed through the course of this video, mostly just because there's not enough space and not good enough lighting on this side. Well, it's done, and I'm very happy with it. There's nothing in this video that I would do differently over the course of it. So sometimes in my videos, as I'm doing something, I realize that I could have done it a better way, and I may mention that. This one, no. If you do it this way, you'll probably get some pretty good results. As for the past ones, like boarding the arch and stuff, when I finally wet down the drywall, it bent way better. But yeah, other than that, I'd say if you follow the 3 videos I have about framing, boarding, and doing the corner bead on this arch, you're gonna get good results. So I just wanna say thanks for watching. I hope your projects are going well, but I hope you're doing even better. Till the next one, you guys.